Hello dear student, how are you? I hope you're fine. Welcome to the second class of intermediate grammar. My name is Renan Michel. I'm your English teacher, you already know me. Today we're going to talk about present simple. Of course, present simple is still a very basic verb tense, but I must be sure that you really understand all these simple verb tenses, because once the language gets a little bit more evolved, more developed, more advanced, you will need to know this by heart, okay? So let's go through it. It's a basic class. If you have any questions, please send me a message on WhatsApp. You know that that's the best channel for communication nowadays. Let's get started. Let's go to the board. So we are starting today with present simple. Present simple is a verb tense. Remember that in English we have 12 verb tenses. Last class we studied present continuous. Today we are studying present simple. In the next couple of classes, for the next couple of classes, we are going to make a comparative between present simple, in which situations to use this simple verb tense, and present continuous, which situations to use that verb tense we learned last class. Okay? But let's go. I really love showing to students the timeline that represents the verb tense. When you're talking about present simple, guys, we're describing something that is repeatedly true. It's something that happens with some frequency. Something that is true in your present. It can be a habit that you have. It can be your routine. But be sure and keep in mind that we are using a structure in which the action repeats itself in the present. Okay? Look at the timeline. If it's a repeated action, it's because it happened in the past, it happens in the present, and probably it will happen in the future. Look, when I say, I speak English, this is a very accurate usage of present simple, because yesterday I spoke English. Today, right now in front of you, I am speaking English, and probably tomorrow I will speak English too. So you see that the timeline here is taken in all of it is taken by this verb tense. The past, the present, and the future, because we are describing something that is true all the time. Okay? Here, the usage, there is a description for the usage. We use present simple for repeated actions in the present. Things that you do every day, every week, every month, every year, I don't know. And of course, if these actions are repeated, and if there is a pattern of repetition, we will express it with frequency. So everything that has a frequency in happening in your present can be expressed with present simple, okay? Or when we are expressing routines and habits, of course, we are using present simple, so the routines and the habits are in the present, okay? I have got some examples here for the usage of present simple, but before going through them, let's see how the structure is formed. Probably you were tired of studying this, probably you saw this in high school, you saw this in college, and you saw this in all the English courses you have started already, but it's a very important grammar point. The construction of the sentence for the present simple follows this pattern. A subject, a verb. This verb is in the first form. What is it? If you take a look, if you search for a table of verbs, you will see that there are at least 3 forms for each verb. I'm going to use the verb go as an example. So if you think of the verb go, in the present it is go, in the past it is went, and in the past participle, this is something that you still don't know, but you'll know in due time. You'll get to know it in due time. We use gone. So, go, went, gone. All verbs have these 3 basic forms. When we are talking about the present simple, we are using the first form. This is the form that we are interested in. Okay? That's why I wrote here first form. This verb in the present simple to express repeated actions in the present, frequency, and routines and habits is always in the first form. So forget the second and the third form. Forget about them now. You will have to worry about them a little later. In terms of structure, we have the affirmative, we have the negative, and we have the question. The affirmative is the most difficult one, and I will tell you why. Because when we have this subject here, he, she, it, also known as the third person of the discourse, the third person of the discourse is the topic that I am talking about. So I am talking to you, I, first person, you, second person. And everything that we are talking about, I don't know, my friend, English, my dog, my cat, these are the third person of singular, okay? Of course, if it has only one, it's singular. If it has more than one, it's plural. So we can categorize this into first, second, third, first, second, third. These three ones. Actually, these five ones, because he, she, it, even though counting as only one person, we separate it so you can visualize better. They regard the third person of singular. It's not me, it's not you, it's another one, it's a third person. If the person is a woman, it's she. If the person is a man, it's he. If it's an object, it's it. You already know this. This is very, very basic. What you need to understand is, if you want to use an affirmative sentence, you just need to get the subject and add the verb. So, taking go as an example, if you want to say eu vou, you just say I go. If you want to say você vai, you go. Nós vamos, we go. Vocês vão, you go. Eles vão, they go. So we just change what is written here is verb for the verb that we are going to use. Go, 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 go. The only problem that we have is when we are not talking about ourselves. I'm not talking about me, so I'm not using I. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about we, about they. I'm using a third person. A he, a man, a she, a woman, or something, an object, an animal. For these three guys here, the verb has to change. My dear student, the verb needs to change. If you don't change the verb, this is a mistake. And how does the verb change? There are three forms. You can just add s, or es, or ies. But these rules depend on the verb, okay? And we are going to see some of these rules right now. So the general rule says the following. If you get a normal verb and you add s. So, example, eat, comer. I eat, eu como. You eat, você come. Nós comemos, we eat. Eles comem, they eat. It doesn't change. The verb doesn't change. The only moment that the verb has got to change is for he, she, it. And as a normal verb, a general verb, we only add this letter s to mark that this is a third person in the singular, that this is he, she, or it. So in this case, I have to say he eats, ele come, he eats. She takes, that's the verb take. Let's imagine the expression take a shower. Instead of go, let's use take a shower, which means tomar banho. Take a shower. We are describing taking a shower in the present as a routine, something that happens repeatedly in the present. So, I take a shower, you take a shower, but he takes a shower. She takes a shower. We are using just the letter S. We are adding the letter S because take is a normal verb. Eat is a normal verb. Another normal verb is the verb walk, caminhar. I walk, you walk, we walk, they walk. But if I want to talk about a woman, ela caminha, she walks. We can't forget this letter S. And dear students, you do that all the time. You always forget to put this letter S, and my question to you is why? Why do you forget to put this letter S at the end of the verb? You can't forget this anymore. If you're using present simple for he, she, it, be attentive. This is a very, very, very bad mistake. Don't do it. Don't commit this mistake. Okay? I think this is okay for general verbs. But now we have some special verbs. If the verbs that I'm using end in S, double S, SH, CH, O, X, very, very less common, Z. If the verb has this ending, we can't just add the letter S. We have to add the letter E and the letter S altogether. But that doesn't change the pronunciation, dear student. For example, let's take the verb go. Go was the first verb that I showed you, right? Go. Let's get another sentence. Go to work. Ir para o trabalho. Let's talk about going to work as something that repeatedly happens in the present. We do that every day. We go to work every day. So, I go to work. You go to work. We go to work. You go to work. They go to work. The verb doesn't change, but for he, she, it, I need to make some changes. This verb finishes in O, so it's not a normal, a common, an ordinary verb. No, it's a special verb. It finishes in O. So, if it finishes in O, we need to add ES. But as I said previously, we don't pronounce goes. This is wrong. No, 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 no. The pronunciation is the same. We just say goes. As if we were adding only the letter S at the end. Goes. The pronunciation is goes, but we write G-O-E-S because the verb finishes in O. Okay? So if I want to say, ela vai para o trabalho, she goes to work. He goes to work. It, an object, but anyways, it's just a grammar lesson. It goes to work. Yes? Let me get another verb for you. Instead of the verb go, let's use the verb wash. Wash. Wash means lavar. Wash. Wash. So, eu lavo. I wash. You wash. We wash. You wash. They wash. No changes in the verb. But to talk about he, she, or it, we need to add something. It finishes in SH, so it finishes in SH. We need to add ES to the verb. So we say he washes, she washes, and it washes. Teacher, do I say washes? No, you say washes, washes. I wash, you wash, he washes, she washes, it washes. That's a very simple verb. Okay? So don't forget, if the verb has these endings, you need to add ES. This only in the affirmative, of course. If the verb finishes or ends in Y, you need to pay attention to this, student. Come here, pay attention. If the verb finishes in Y, you need to analyze what letter comes before letter Y. Take a look at play. It finishes in Y, but before the letter Y, we have a vowel. Remember the vowels? A, E, I, O, U. If you have a vowel before letter Y, nothing changes. We're going to use it as a normal verb. We only add letter S. Plays. He plays. Why is that, teacher? Because it finishes in Y and before there is a vowel. But look at these two other verbs, studies and worries. The original verb here is worry. It finishes in Y, but before the letter Y, we have a consonant. In this case, what we do is we drop letter Y and we add IES. So she worries. This is the verb preocupar. So, eu me preocupo. I worry. You worry. We worry. You worry. They worry. But for he, she, it, he worries. She worries. It worries. We had to drop letter Y and add IES because before the Y there was a consonant. It was not a vowel. Okay? The same happens with study. The original verb is study, S-T-U-D-Y, but before Y there is a consonant, so for he, she, it, I drop the Y and I add I-E-S. So, I study, eu estudo, you study, we study, they study, but he, she, it studies. Okay? And now let's talk about this irregular verb, verb have. Verb have doesn't follow these rules, guys. For he, she, it becomes has. Oh, teacher, why is that? Because God wanted so. Okay? That's the only reasonable explanation. So, have, but for he, she, it, has. So, let's conjugate the verb. I have, you have, he has, she has, it has, we have, you have, they have. All right? So what we have learned so far is that every time you have third person in the singular, he, she, it, the verb in the affirmative brings an S at the end, an ES or an IES. It really depends on the verb. Okay? I think this is okay. Let's go to the negative now. In the negative, we will need to use this auxiliary guy called don't. 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 And don't. Most students, they say not. For example, eu não estudo. I not study. But you see that when we are using the negative in English, we need to show what verb tense is that. And not doesn't show me the verb tense. Not just shows me it's in the negative. So, if you want to make a negative sentence in the present simple to describe a repeated action in the present, to describe some kind of frequency or a routine and a habit, in the present simple, you can't just say not. You have to use do not. This is the form that we use when we are writing. When we are speaking, we put it all together and it becomes don't. So, I don't. Eu não como. I don't eat. Sei lá, eu não como carne. I don't eat meat. Let me write this as an example. I don't eat meat. Eu não como carne. I don't eat meat. Você não toma banho. You don't take a shower. You don't take a shower. Nós não caminhamos. We don't walk. We don't walk. Vocês não estudam. You don't study. Eles não se preocupam. They don't worry. They don't worry. The only difference we have now, again, is for he, she, and it. And attention, please. Pay very attention now. Pay a lot of attention now, please. When we have he, she, it, we can't use don't. We have to use doesn't. Why is that, teacher? Remember that in the affirmative, we changed the verb. Pay very close attention, student, please. For he, she, it, in the affirmative, we used S, ES, or IES. We changed the verb. But in the negative, the verb doesn't change. The verb continues being itself. So I need to change not the verb, but the auxiliary. So instead of using do not, I will do exactly what happens with a verb that finishes in O. Remember, when it finishes in O, we add ES to the verb. So instead of using do, we will use does. Can you see that there is an es here? Does. Because we are talking about he, she, and it. In this case, doesn't. And as this has already been changed, the verb remains the same. So if I want to say, ele não come carne, he doesn't eat meat. He doesn't eat meat. Many students make this mistake. They learn that for the affirmative we need to add s. So they say, oh, he doesn't eat meat. Oh, this is so wrong. No. Why not? Because the change was already made in the auxiliary verb. He doesn't eat meat. No s at the end. The only form that changes the verb is in the affirmative. Only. So, if I want to say, ela não caminha, she doesn't walk. We can't put s here. Forget about this letter s. This letter s only comes at the end of the verb for the affirmative. It doesn't play. Let's say, o cachorrinho não brinca. It doesn't play. Tem s aqui. Do we have an s at the end? No, we don't. Because the changes were made in the auxiliary. Okay? Let's repeat after me. I don't eat meat. You don't take a shower. He doesn't eat meat. She doesn't walk. It doesn't play. We don't walk. You don't study. They don't worry. Okay? And now we have the question form. What happens? Remember that in the present continuous, as we used verb to be, in the question, verb to be came before the subject. Yes? But here we don't have verb to be. So what we need to do is use the auxiliary for the present simple, which is do. And of course, for he, she, it, as do finishes in O, does. And here, teacher, does the verb change? Nope, the verb doesn't change. So, do I eat meat, for example? Do you eat meat? Does he eat meat? Again, many students confuse this part and they say eats. Is this correct? No, it's not correct because the changes are made in the auxiliary, not in the verb. The only moment that the verb changes is in the affirmative. Repeat this after me, dear student. The only moment that the verb changes is in the affirmative. It doesn't